Probably call that out. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to SketchCraft Live. I'm Rob Duanius, graphic artist, Esquire. And if you're joining in for the very first time, you should know that we typically rant about art, movie, and comic-related news stuff chosen by either yourself or us or whomever. Joining in today is Brandon Let Heavy James. Brandon, say hi.
Hello.
And returning from the art world of what? You don't got deadlines yet, right, Ashley? 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 Is Ashley there?
I don't think so.
Ashley West, are you there?
Did we call her?
Is her mute button on?
I don't see her on the call.
Merge calls. Ashley, you there? Hello? Isn't this amazing, folks? This is the first time this has ever happened. Welcome to Skype.
Hello.
Hello.
There you go. Skype cut you out. We're opening. Say hello, Ashley.
Hi.
Ashley has returned. It's funny. I said, Ashley, returning from the depths of art, whatever. Do you have deadlines? And just silence. I'm like, oh no. The art killed her. It wouldn't be a show without technical difficulties, right, everybody?
Right? Can we for once just start a show and stay on track without just fucking up?
And then Brandon speaks.
Language. That's right, language.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for that. All right, so let's move right in. We got a busy show today. Very, 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 very busy. Basically, let me set this up for you, everybody. We all know a movie came out this past week, 2 weeks ago, called Deadpool, right? It's a big movie. You may have heard of it. And the week before that, there's a podcast, sort of a weekly, well, it's a daily podcast, but weekly they do a segment called Collider Heroes. The podcast is called Collider Movie Talk. If you don't know about it, you should look it up. It's on YouTube. It's pretty awesome. And once a week, they do something specifically just for superheroes called Collider Heroes. The host of the show is John Schnepp. He did the documentary, The Death of Superman Lives or whatever, like The Death and Return of Superman. Whatever happened to the Superman Lives movie that was going to be made in 1997, which I backed on Kickstarter. SketchCraft is in the credits if you go look. And I'm a huge fan of John Schnepp's. And 3 weeks ago, he had on Mr. Rob Liefeld, the creator of Deadpool, for a 2-hour,
Very long.
Normally the shows run about 45 minutes, maybe an hour 10, maybe, depending on how the questions get. Usually, sometimes the questions at the end can add on sometimes. But Mr. Rob Liefeld went that extra extreme distance and dragged that out 2 fucking hours. So much was covered that I wanted to actually do a recap show about an internet podcast show, which is crazy. So I actually made Brandon and Ashley both watch this thing. That wasn't easy, folks. You should know how fucking hard that was to do. Brandon, you watched it, right?
Correct.
Ashley, you watched it?
Yep.
Okay. So, in all disclosure, folks, I want you to know, in case you think I'm not a fan of Rob Liefeld, right? You think, Rob, maybe I'm not a fan. I want to point you to a few things. Back here is my original set of Image comics on the wall. All the original 8 founding member issues, including the first Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Pit, Max, Spawn, Wildcat, Shadowhawk, Cyberforce, the second wave of Max, and that Indian book I don't remember. I don't have those up yet. And then also over there, I have my Prophet posters from Wizard Magazine right there. Wizard issue 25, I think it was. And then Prophet, that's actually the promo poster from Comic-Con. You can't really see it, it's dark, but you can see the lights on. From Comic-Con in San Diego in like 1993, 94, around there. Also, I just want to show you all, check this sucker out here. This is my actual Heroes Reborn t-shirt from 1997. Drawn by Rob Liefeld. Look at that. Got this at Comic-Con because I knew this was going to be one of the biggest fuck-ups ever. So I had to buy a shirt. Now, I want you guys to know I love Rob Liefeld and Image Comics. But the problem I've always had with Rob Liefeld since I was a teenager was it always felt like you got Rob Liefeld trying, and then you got a lot of Rob Liefeld not giving a fuck. That's how it always felt. Like, man, that guy really did something cool there. And then there would be like a year of not doing much, and then he'd come back when things kind of waned, and he'd do something really cool again. And then it would be this sort of half-assery over and over again. And I think that sort of culminated in the Heroes Reborn line where you got some cool promo art. Admittedly, I thought this piece of art was cool, but then you got that weird chest thing, the famous chest drawing where his chest is poofing out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know
and I
that.
do want people to know that he actually swiped that art from the Aliens versus Predator arcade game. If you go look, there's an Aliens versus Predator arcade game from Capcom. At the time, Rob was swiping a lot of art from anime and manga and games. And if you look at their caricature of Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, it's the same chest. People always wonder, why would he draw a chest like that? Because he swiped it from a spoof of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Aliens versus Predator Capcom game. That's my own knowledge, folks. That's what I do here. So I've talked a lot. I want to go right into it. Brandon, why now? Explain why do you? Why would I bring this? Why must people watch this Collider Heroes at Rob Liefeld?
First, real quick, I can't see you for some reason. I'm on the SketchCraft Live, just so you know. So I bummer I didn't get to see the shirt or the back posters. So hopefully everyone else got to see it. But for some reason,
I'm live.
yeah, for some reason I can't see it. That bums me out. Second, say that question one more time because I was really fixated on the fact that I could not bring up our podcast here and see you point out all the.
All right. So that being said, I just realized Brandon's right. We're not streaming live. I'll just upload this video. So that being said, Brandon, why must people? Why would I recommend people check out the Collider Heroes with Rob Liefeld special? Like,
Well, you get different sides of different stories throughout comic history, throughout Marvel, Deadpool, X-Men. You get to hear his side. You also get to hear him talk about other celebrities, artists. I wouldn't call them feuds, but little fun rivalries between them. You get like an insider info, but just from one person's point of view. So it's kind of neat just to hear it, but you also have to take it that it's one person's point of view. So he's definitely off. He's very eccentric and he's very bubbly personality. He's all over the place. You know, he's very animated, more so than I thought. You know, I've seen some stuff from him, but this interview, he's like doing voices of Alan Moore, all these other people. He's just off the wall, off the rails, and it's intriguing to see.
I thought you were getting like the best version of Rob Liefeld,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like almost you can almost hear Deadpool in a way when he talks, right? like has he become Deadpool? Interesting. Ashley, what did you think overall of the 1 hour and 52-minute?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I also like work when I listen to those things, so I kind of just listen to it and like work when I draw, so I just kind of like just
Yeah, that's fine. People
seep
mostly just
into
listen.
what they're saying, and I'm like, oh yeah. And after a while, I'm like, man, this thing's going on, like it's dragging out. But I mean, I still kind of like enjoyed it, and it was interesting to get to see like him actually talk because I've never like seen him talk before, or really heard or seen much of him before this. So it was interesting. And he's definitely, I don't know, I'm a nice I'm kind of a nice person when it comes to things like that. He seems like a likable person, but that's just my first impression of him. But I mean, it's whatever. Yeah. Again, I'm nice when it comes to these things. So
Right. Well, let me roll. This is a big deal for me because when people ask me all the time. People ask me all the time, Rob, every fucking minute. When people do ask me, Rob, how long have you been drawing? And I go, well, typically all of my life. I don't know. The thing that really got me pushed into art was the first time I saw the Ninja Turtles, these collected paperbacks of First Publishing did these color trades, 4 volumes of the Turtles. And I actually drew pictures to trade pictures for those books. First time I did that. That summer, I took a trip up north to my cousin's house, and I was waiting at the train station here in San Diego, and my mom at the time said, you can get one magazine to read, and I was like, oh, I got to make this count. And I looked and found there was this comics. I want to say it was like Starlog, but it was like comics log or something like that. Whoever made Starlog made this comics thing. And there was a picture of Wolverine fighting, I don't know who it was. I know now it was Cable. And it was this thing Rob Liefeld drew. And I remember seeing Wolverine because I had his action figure with the Secret Wars. But it looked a lot more violent than I ever remembered seeing that character. I was like, oh, and he was up on him, like claws and stuff.
Right.
And I was like, this is really cool. So I remember reading that, and that's where I first learned about Cable and the New Mutants, and Rob Liefeld was having his big, his big run. I was like, I wonder who this Liefeld. Oh, his name's Rob, like me. That's awesome. And then fast forward a year later to the launch of Image when I went to San Diego Comic-Con here in San Diego. That's where I discovered what Image was. They had just launched. And Youngblood was the first one up to bat. And I was like, oh, he's making his own X-Men. This is going to be amazing. And that was like, that con was boring as shit, folks. To paint a picture how boring cons were at that time, they had a giveaway for RoboCop. They had these police cars, the OCP police cars in the movie RoboCop. Mm-hmm. RoboCop 2, to promote the movie, they had a giveaway for an OCP car. They spent 1 hour reading names from the fucking... No one was there to pick up the car. Like, no one came. No one came. Everyone filled out these ticket things. No one came. The whole place lit the fuck up with the Image thing. I mean, the line started forming. There was 2 big things. Bob Kane was there for a little bit, which I got to meet, and there was this Image booth. And I have pictures of me with Bob Kane. I never bothered to take pictures of me at the Image booth because I didn't think that was going to be. I thought that was normal. I was like, oh, so this is where the comic book people are. Never seen anything like it. When I'm thinking back on what that launched. And what it was like a rock star mentality. And so every year subsequently from Comic-Con, when one of those Image guys showed up, Jim Lee, McFarlane, it was like fucking, at the time, to quote my age, it was like Pearl Jam or Soundgarden. It was like rock stars showed up to Comic-Con. In the way that, like, now, if a movie star like Ben Affleck shows up to Comic-Con, it's a big fucking deal, or Ryan Reynolds shows up. Like, it was the same thing. I remember Jim Lee walking through in 1996, walking through the Image kind of moved toward the back at the time, walking through the aisleways, and people were just like reaching out to touch him. Like, in the Superman v Batman trailer, people were trying to touch Superman. It looked just like that. He was like, my people. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's Jim Lee. I've never that won't exist today. Like you sometimes you see these guys walking through con. You go, hey, there's a guy, and he goes, eh. That's the most. And then meanwhile everyone's in line, to get their shit, but it's usually 50-year-old guys with fucking, memorabilia. But it was just a weird time, and Rob Liefeld sort of. It always came down to like there was the studious quality part of Image, and people attributed that to Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and Mark Silvestri. For some reason, people forgot about Eric Larson. I don't know why. I don't know why. He was it was like Savage Dragon was probably my best favorite book. But Rob Liefeld was always linked to this half-assery, ego-driven thing. And I didn't understand at the time why. All I knew was if you made fun of Rob Liefeld, everyone liked you. So, because I was a dick, I made fun of Rob Liefeld while I also simultaneously bought Rob Liefeld stuff. Like, because I liked, oh, this looks cool. But I'm going to make fun of him because it's fun. Like how internet trolls do it now, right?
Right.
But I did it in person. I used to fuck with Liefeld every year. That was my favorite fucking thing to do. One time I had my little brother, while he was giving an interview, hit him in the knees with his Star Wars blaster because I knew Rob Liefeld wouldn't hit a little kid. That was fun. One time, yeah, he didn't. I didn't. Oh, ha ha ha. One time, that's a funny story.
Man, Rob's a dick.
Yeah, I am a dick.
I know. I'm like, I'm just.
Yeah. I had nothing else to do at these cons, so
I'm too scared to do things like that. I'm like, I'll die.
Now they'll arrest you, right? This is pre-Columbine, like they don't put up with teenagers and their bullshit anymore. But before Columbine, it was like the Sandlot days, like, oh, we can go to Comic-Con and cause some hell. When they had they had this jet, the Youngblood jet at Comic-Con. And I remember going in there yelling, "It smells like Bad Rock's farts," and just fucking around, I can smell Rob Liefeld's ego. It's over here. I found Youngblood issue 6 because at the time Youngblood issue 6 hadn't come out. We were all waiting for it. Did you? And I would ask him, "Did you spend all the money on Youngblood issue 6 on this jet? Is that why? What's happening in the cartoon?" Because he had this cartoon he was trying to make, the Youngblood cartoon, which he showed at Comic-Con. It never got made. And so I would fuck with him. And then McFarlane actually made these Youngblood figures. I'm like, hey, Rob, now you can learn anatomy. Look. And I would take his figure. This is what an arm looks like at different angles.
Man, you're...
Man.
Yeah, I'd fuck with him every year. Meanwhile, I'd secretly dream maybe someday I can draw profit. So, sometimes I think my career is just karma. A
little bit.
Yeah. That is... I'm not like that now. You've never seen me do it, but I was definitely... But the thing the problem though with Rob Liefeld was everywhere he went, controversy, to quote the English version of that word, followed. And case in point, when he was kicked out of Image Comics, like that was a big deal. And this Collider Heroes thing, he glosses over that entirely. The getting kicked out of Image, doesn't even mention it really. He just goes, "Oh yeah, I came up with." Go ahead.
I will say that he's like, I won't say too much. At one point, he's like, I won't say too much because I have a habit of making of making things hard on myself. By the way, I guess you know what I mean. Like he said that at one point, and I was like, oh,
He was acknowledging his own troubles, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I give him total props for that. I like Rob Liefeld, the personality. You know what I mean? I don't know if I like him. I wouldn't know if I ever want to work with him. I can say in years past, people who have drawn on his books have offered me to come on and help do stuff for free. To which I say, no, I can draw fan art. I can draw Youngblood fan art any way I want now. I don't need to go and do that for, nothing. I don't,
Right.
I don't, I don't believe, he loves to name, one thing about Rob, like he'll do this, right? He will, like I think he even said on this, I paid Jeff Matsuda $800 a page, to give Rob Liefeld, hey man, I paid people real money. What he doesn't mention, is like the books were selling like $500,000 to $1 million per issue. You got to understand what that means. Per issue, anything they did, we're selling anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million copies per issue. I mean, it was an astronomical. To put it in point, now we're lucky if a comic book sells 100,000 issues. That's
Right.
considered the fucking insane. Usually it's like Spider-Man be selling like 36,000, 40,000 copies, 50,000 copies, per month. So Brandon, the books at the time were like $3 too. They weren't cheap. They were like $2.95.
Right.
So do $3 at $1 million, that's $3 million a month, in 1996 dollars. So you can just make that out somewhere between 6 and 10 million,
Right.
in 90s money. And what's your overhead? Your overhead's like what, 15 artists? So that means per page, 800 was like, they were getting hooked up. I'm not denying that. But today, when we're in this market, I don't know, it's almost like a way, he likes to phrase things so he looks really good. And you're like, well, I mean, yeah, you paid that guy. That's amazing. But I know you don't pay people that now. You know what I mean? Nowhere near it. Matter of fact, I know a lot of them are lucky if they get paid. But we don't bring that shit up. So, I don't know. It wasn't like a come and justify his existence anyway. It was just to come and hang out and talk about Deadpool. But the thing that, like, Rob, and this goes all the way back to this Levi's commercial Rob did for me, like, the first time I ever heard someone complain about Rob Liefeld, and boy, did she talk my ear off, was this comic book shop opened up where I lived in Lakeside. And the owner was from New York. His wife, the owner's name was Pat Duffy, his wife was Adele. Adele was fucking awesome. Never had a mean thing to say about anybody. Until the day I bought a copy of Youngblood. I think it was issue 6. I can't remember. But I bought a copy of Youngblood, and she was like, fucking Liefeld. And she had that New York accent. And she was like, oh, this guy, we were at the Diamond thing. And so what they used to do is preview night at Comic-Con. If you go to Comic-Con now, Wednesday night's this thing called preview night, right? People generally do this now at cons. There's this preview night. Where that came from was preview night used to be distributors night at San Diego Comic-Con. That's kind of where all this shit started. It would be the Wednesday night. So distributors would go in, they'd be able to go and see all the stuff that's coming out, get signatures, all their books that they would sell in advance, they could get signed by artists. There'd be a big, dinner and a banquet. It was all for retailers and distributors. There was 3 or 4 major distributors at the time, and it was all this big, retailers. I don't want to get retailers and distributors mixed up, but it was a big retailers thing. And then eventually, when the market collapsed and all the retailers got wiped out, they made that preview night available to everybody. That's how that worked out. But there was this big Diamond dinner. Diamond, the distributor, publisher, the distributor, Diamond Comics, they had a preview night. And they brought in Rob Liefeld, and he had just done this Levi's commercial. And he was like, she said, he comes walking in, I'm Mr. Comic Book Guy. And now, this is a person from New York who had a problem with Rob Liefeld's ego. You got to, think about that, like that's pretty crazy, Brandon, you want to say something?
I was just thinking about how your New York accent sounds very Australian. I like it.
Yeah, that's what I laughed.
Ah, fuck off. So, I'm not...
Crikey.
Yeah, whatever. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for adding to the fucking story. So, when they went and did Image, when they created Image, there was no, how do I say this? There was no looking back. Like, oh, we're going to do our own thing, and maybe sometime we'll come back to Marvel. It was fuck Marvel. Like, you got to understand, folks, like, there's never been anything like that since. I can't think of. They were in a lot of ways, every interview from every one of those creators was about how Marvel did them wrong. How they couldn't get, Marvel was selling T-shirts and with all their artwork, and they never saw a penny from it, which, is true. Like, Liefeld didn't see a dime from this Avenger shirt. There was, but they were being paid millions of dollars, which, name one artist at Marvel is making $1 million.
None.
I don't think if you add them all up. Like,
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you add them all up, the overhead's more than that. I'll get that thing. But they were so when Liefeld and Jim Lee went back to Marvel to do Heroes Reborn, it would be in a way like if Marvel movies announced a bunch of DC films. Like it would be so weird. It was weird to see Liefeld and Jim Lee go back to Marvel. It wasn't like, oh, they did their thing, then they'll come back. It felt like, is the Image over? Because there was this whole revolution. I got swept up in it, folks. Like in the way college students get swept up in political activism. Like, oh my God, like right now it's Bernie Sanders, before it was Ron Paul, before it was, Obama, and then it go all the way back, Barry Goldwater, whatever, Nixon. Like, it felt like that, like the revolution, and the Turtles movie had come out, and all these indies, the Fuck the Two. There used to be a T-shirt running around Comic-Con. I think the guy from Kitchen Sink Press used to wear it, called Marvel Can Suck My Cock. Now, that's their words, not mine, right? I made a shirt. I saw it in Chasing Amy, then I saw it at Comic-Con. So the next year, I went and I made a shirt that said Liefeld can suck my cock. I can't believe I didn't take a photo of that one, but that's true. Like, I was mad about this, I bought it, but I was mad about it. And then the craziest thing happened during Heroes Reborn. Liefeld got thrown out of Heroes Reborn. He got fired from that job, folks. Jim Lee had to come in and use Wildstorm, and they had to take over the whole line, and sort of rescue it. So, and I still haven't been able to get a clear explanation for that. I was hoping Collider would touch on that. Like, they sort of jumped over Heroes Reborn. I think Liefeld just basically talked about how Jim was the darling of the company, and he was nervous about going, and, they didn't want to, and then, of course he came back, and I'm just like, I don't know, it was...
It's kind of like breaking up with someone, talking a lot of shit, and then going back to date them again, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Like that's how I look at it. They were with the Marvel and everything, and then they're like, I'm leaving, whatever, I'm gonna date this hotter, newer chick, and then they're like, oh, I had it so good over there, and they went back and it just didn't fit right anymore. That's how I look at it.
Ashley, I've talked a lot. I know Wesley will comment. So, yeah, he's a fucking dick.
Yes.
You have your own independent stuff you're working on.
Right.
This, I believe, is only possible now because of Kickstarter and crowdfunding. Like, you could still do what you want, but if you want to ship it to people directly, that exists now because of Kickstarter. Can you imagine if Kickstarter sold their shit to Amazon, and then you had to then submit all your stuff for review? You know what I mean? And then go into Amazon bookstore?
Yeah.
You see what that's what it's like. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And I don't know. That would be...
Hope it never happens. Seems possible, though.
I don't know. I don't want to think about it, but...
So, that all being said, was there any part that made you laugh or think critically, or what part stood out the most to you? Like, do you remember something that... Anything, Ashley?
Hold on, yes. Hold on.
Sure.
No. I mean...
It's harder because you're younger. I find it interesting because...
I know. I feel like people are like, what the hell is that kind of answer? But I'm just like, I don't know. I'm really bad at thinking on the spot.
What year were you born? I'm just curious.
At the end of 1991.
Rob's old. So I got some. If you'd like to hear mine, Rob.
I feel like when cites him, like it's called bald. You know, you're like, yeah, it's true though. Like, but that's awesome because you grew up. I mean, Image was done by the time you probably started reading comics, right? I mean, look, they're still around, but the Image I knew was gone. Phase 2.
Yeah, it was. I was just. I couldn't. I was a baby. I couldn't talk. I was a baby when it was. When you're talking about 1992. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
it's hard for me to, have to like pull from that. But I mean, he did. Okay, this is kind of off topic, but he did talk about Cable and who he would think would play Cable. And I know, again, I'm totally going off
That's fine.
topic.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
No.
It's
let's
free form
finish.
this time. No, go ahead.
No, are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
fine.
Whatever you talk
Because
about.
that's
Okay.
what I remember. I remember, and I actually had an answer to it. And
Sure.
you could think, and you might think my answer is like crazy. They were thinking, all right, who's gonna play Cable, or who might be a good candidate for Cable? And they were thinking, oh my gosh, what's his name? Stephen Lang from Avatar. And I was like, okay. And I don't know how old Stephen Lang is. Do you know how old he is?
64.
64. Okay. Another thought was, I just don't know though, is what if Clancy Brown played Cable? Is he not like in shape enough though? Is he too old?
He's roughly the same age. He might be like 5 or 6 years younger than
Okay.
Stephen
I was
Lang.
thinking, for some reason I saw him the other day and I was like, he kind of could do it.
The difference being is, I think Stephen Lang will, if they wanted to shoot this next year, he'll already be in shape because they're about to
Yeah.
film Avatar.
That's true.
The
Yeah.
problem is he's 64, so if they want a Cable 10 years from now, they're going to have to. But it's fine because since Cable's a time traveler, I'm like, then you just cast the younger version of Cable because he'll just, like. Plus, it's
Yeah.
Deadpool. It'll just be like, oh, you changed. I don't, I
Right.
think it'll really matter. I really like Stephen Lang as a choice, but who knows who they're going to cast as Cable? Like that comes down to how they write the part.
Yeah.
Like.
I don't know. I just think that like Clancy Brown like could do the voice. Like I think he could really like I don't know. I think because he is a voice actor too. So
Right. But Stephen Lang, the one thing I can say about Stephen Lang is he has incredible range as an actor.
yeah,
If you want to know how crazy this guy can act, if you go in, you see Avatar, you go, okay, that's one version, it's a military badass guy. Go watch Tombstone, the 1994 movie with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. Stephen Lang's in that movie as the most weaselly, sniveling piece of shit cowboy there is in that film. He's the one they're always fucking with. He's got this big mustache and beard. He's all hunched over. He's a scrawny little guy. So he can play like comedy, like he has the range as an actor. In the same way that like if Bryan Cranston wanted to play Luther on the screen, he has the range, right, to play dark or light or funny, like we see in Breaking Bad, where he can be humorous, he can be a nerd, he can be menacing. Clancy Brown, for me as a guy, since Highlander has one mode, Clancy Brown mode, and you don't fuck with him. He's the fucking
Yeah.
Kurgan, like.
but he's also Mr. Krabs. So that's
Oh, you got me there.
yeah. So it's like he could do. I feel like he could do both, like the comedy and the like badassery. So.
Yeah, I think it's a fair choice. It really just comes down to what the script is, right? Because if they write a certain character, then you bring people in, and then they also have availability. He'd have to get into a certain amount of shape within a certain amount of time,
Right,
But
and
those,
that's the thing too.
to be fair though, those Hollywood folks, they got those trainers, right?
Yeah.
There's a great
Yeah.
article I read once. On a side note, look it up. I'll try to find it, folks, but I doubt it. But if you look it in Google, there was an article about the stunt doubles in superhero movies. How like, okay, Hugh Jackman gets a trainer, that's paid for by the studio, right? Chris Evans gets a trainer, that's paid for by the studio. Iron Man, whatever, Tony Stark. But their stunt doubles, they have to be in just as good a shape. They don't get any financial support from the studio. They have to do it on their own. So they resort to all sorts of drugs and crazy diets, and it's like really disturbing. Like it's this dark side to Hollywood. Like the studios aren't paying for the stunt people to be in that shape, but they have to be. So they like wreck their bodies to get. They basically have to do the WWF from the 80s, like thing where they get all muscled up, and they're probably not doing it healthily. So it's a bit of a dark story, folks, but you should check it out. It's a fascinating read. And I imagine in the next 5 or 6 years it'll become the big If there was ever to be a scandal in the superhero movie genre, it's going to be how these actors have to get, or their stunt doubles have to get into the same shape as the actors. Brandon, you were going to mention something about.
I got a ton of stuff.
Go ahead. Go down the list.
I got a ton here.
Go down the list.
Yeah.
You guys didn't do your homework. I
No,
got
I was
like
like,
40
why-
things here,
I didn't do my homework. I talked for 20 minutes straight.
but not about the collider thing.
Okay.
You're all.
Go ahead. I want
Ike.
you to lead it up. Go ahead. Bring it
Okay.
up.
Well, first off, his name was Ike. Stephen Lang in
There you
the
go,
Tombstone movie. Ike. He was awesome because he was a little weasel. All right. One thing I really liked that they talked about on the collider thing was transmedia and how it's shaping the industry, where everything's connected now. You know, your DeviantArt, your Twitter, your Facebook, Periscope, everything connecting to fans. And I really think that's cool because me and you try to do the same thing where we're on everything. You know, all the sources that you have, we're a part of. You know, and I like that they touch on that because older artists like him usually aren't in touch with that. Usually they don't really go with it. But the marketing team for Deadpool was on top of that shit, and that was great. That's one of the things I loved about this movie, and the whole thing was the marketing. It was
So
it was
much
genius.
so that Rob Liefeld himself reached out to you and you threw up the Joe
Yep.
Kelly thing, right?
I got to talk to him. He, in 1 week, got mad at me. The next week, he said my Deadpool art was fantastic. So,
to be
you
fair,
know,
I don't think he memorizes.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't memorize names. So it was nice for him to be mad at me and then also say my art was fantastic. So it's great. You know, I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I liked that they said the adult genre, you know, are movies on a comeback, and they talked about movies they grew up with that I also grew up with that you did, like RoboCop, Terminator, Aliens. You know, those were R-rated movies.
The Crow?
The Crow. I saw that when I was 9. That was my favorite movie. Still is. So, you know, we grew up on R-rated movies and we were allowed to see them.
Even
And we were-
comedies like Beverly Hills Cop was R-rated.
Right. And, you know, it didn't, I don't think it effed us up that much. I mean, maybe a little bit. I mean, the shirts you made, apparently, you know, Rob Liefeld can blank blank.
I got that from Chasing Amy, so we can blame Kevin Smith.
Right. That's a good movie as well, R-rated.
It's in the movie, folks. The Marvel can suck my whatever. It's in the movie. You can see it in the opening.
But that movie showed that you can bring back our movies and it'll still sell. I mean, obviously, it's doing crazy numbers.
That's a big question that we'll have to get into later when we get into the review. But I don't know. The big question is what about Deadpool the movie translates to other properties? Because I don't know, Brandon. You know what I mean? Like if whatever they did on Deadpool is going to mean anything for other films. But bring on the next. Let's talk about the Alan Moore thing. I thought Schnepp brought up a really good topic about. So for people who don't know who Alan Moore is, he famously wrote The Watchmen. He's written so many great comics, and he wrote some of the best Superman story, the best Superman story ever told. It's the one where Superman is in another realm, and I don't want to ruin it, but the Supergirl just did a whole thing on that.
Swamp Thing, right?
He wrote Swamp Thing. He wrote so many
League of
comics.
Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He created and wrote the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but he actually ran himself out of a career picking a fight with DC Comics. And Liefeld heard about that, got a hold of him, and Alan Moore ended up revamping his character Supreme. Liefeld came up with his own version of Superman called Supreme. It's kind of much like when you first read Prophet, just kind of a generic superhero, doesn't mean anything. And then Alan Moore took over and basically did like his take on Miracle Man in a way, like Miracle Man and Superman. Miracle Man was sort of the spoof of Captain Marvel. Not really a spoof, but like a dark, one part satire, one part commentary, one part pushing the genre forward. That's what Miracle Man did. And Alan Moore did the same thing with Supreme. A lot of people don't know about that run.
Right.
If you've never read this Alan Moore Supreme, go read it because you're going to go, wow, this kind of reminds me of Mark Millar stuff, you know? And you're like, no, this is where Mark Millar read, you know? Like trust me on that one. Before Ultimates, there was Supreme, you know? And before Supreme, there was Miracle Man. But you could see that through line. So Rob Liefeld gave Alan Moore a job, brought him back, and Alan Moore helped refix Youngblood and got Alan Moore's career. It's because of that you got League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And that was a time when, like, Alan Moore, he was, like, cool with writing comedy. I think they talked about that at the time. Like, he was cool with being funny and shit. And then Rob Liefeld made a joke about recording a conversation with Alan Moore, and he's afraid to release it because he thinks Alan Moore's a wizard.
Right.
Oh yeah, he said he didn't have to like wait.
He's like, because he's kind of like a wizard. Like when I heard that, I'm like, that. I think that was a genuine Rob Liefeld.
Oh, he said that he was talking to. Didn't he say he was talking to Gandhi and Jesus?
Yeah,
Or
Alan
something?
Moore. Alan Moore was got.
He's
They
like,
didn't hear from him for 2 weeks.
he's
And
talking
Alan,
to Gandhi. That's what he said.
Yeah, yeah, and he reminds him of like a dark wizard. I just was like, that's where that '90s Deadpool thing is clearly is Rob Liefeld. Like,
Ashley, have you ever seen a picture of Alan Moore?
Actually, no, I haven't.
Okay, so imagine a Viking and a wizard and a heavy metal lead singer mushed into one. That's
Kinda-
what he looks like.
You
Kinda
know
look
what?
like Rob
That's kind of
Zombie.
what I thought it would look like. Because I don't know why. I think because the swamp thing, and he looks like he's got a giant beard. And then I was like, well, maybe he looks like his characters. And
Yes.
I don't know.
yes.
Oh yes, oh yes, very brooding and in front of a shot glass somewhere probably.
There used to be this magazine called Wizard Magazine, Ashley. It was basically what we had before the internet. And there'd be this section in the back, the top 10 artists. It was kind of a bullshit thing, the top 10 writers, top 10 artists. And all the pictures were generally nice, glossy mugshots. Like Rob Liefeld looked good, McFarlane looked good, Jim Lee looked good. And then in the writer section, there'd be Alan Moore's #1, and he just looked like death arrived. Like, big face from him, just sunken eyes, just a grim fucking. He'd be in front of a shot glass. You'd be like, whoa. Alan Moore is a. But then he could write some crazy comedy. Like, he could write some genuinely funny shit. So, I mean, it's no joke that Alan Moore, gets the props that he gets. But I mean, Rob did do a good job and hire Alan Moore when no one gave a shit. So
He trailed off there with that part, but okay.
but I don't know, man. You want to give him some props? I mean, I'm gonna. With me, that guy, dude, is just like, there's a guy who tries, and then there's a guy who just, again, just.
See, and okay, I wrote this and I believe it. Rob Liefeld definitely knows his comics. He knows the dates, the issues. I think he's a true fan at heart. I think in the end he is a huge comic book fan and he loves comic books. And like you said, maybe he doesn't give his all. The Captain America cover was horrible. It was horrible, but there's plenty
The
of blogs.
cover. Did you
Yeah, but
see any of the
there's-
interior
right,
pages,
There's
Brent?
plenty of blogs of bad art, but I mean, the dude's he's gotten work for over what?
Here's the
30
thing,
years?
though, right? Like, I think you were young too when he was running Extreme. So you had Youngblood. Everyone's like, all right, and it was this flip book thing, and you're like, okay, this is his version of like X-Men meets Avengers. Kind of, it was more Avengers really than X-Men because it was
Right.
like, they're fighting Saddam Hussein and shit like that. But it was cool. But then you started to get books. You got Brigade, which I don't know why we got Brigade. Then you got 2 versions of Youngblood. You got Bloodstrike. There's so many fucking. Brandon, bring up the list of Extreme Studios titles, like right now. Like, you dig it up.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I can go to my own collection, see if I can't quickly drag it. Because you gotta remember, like, he just flooded the market with his own shit to the point where it was like, I was a fan of, like, I'll buy all this stuff because it was cool. Pin up here. I mean, Bloodstrike, Bloodpool, Bloodwolf,
Prophet,
Chapel.
Newman, Berserkers.
right? Let's not a super extreme sacrifice. He did his own giant Evangeline. Let's not even get into that.
There's
Glory
12
in Front-
titles.
Yeah, I mean 12. This is one part. This is one studio in a company.
Yeah.
And they were all like these giant pinups. And at the time I thought like, oh, that'll, it was cool. But when you realize what that did to the industry, it's kind of like Schnepp had a good point. I don't think he made it so much here when he was talking to Rob, but he makes a point consistently about how like variant covers are kind of overwhelming the industry in a way, to the point where it's like, retailers have to buy like 50 copies to get a variant cover. Well, at the same time, and Rob Liefeld did tell the story, at the same time back in the day, they had these chromium covers and die cut covers and holographic covers and foil covers. And it'd be like, you buy 50 of an issue, you get this cover of fucking, Bloodstrike that, when you touch it, the blood appears. And I thought Rob Liefeld did a good job of explaining that story a little bit and then doing the voice, too, of the guy who sold them on all these crazy cover treatments. But
yeah.
he makes a story, too. He goes, yeah, they had this thing where, this ink where, when you touch it, it changes color. So that's, what's that called? thermo something, right? So when I was a kid, they had these Hot Wheels cars, and this ink came out where when you touch it, it would turn a different color. So it'd be neon yellow. You hold on to it, it'd be orange, right? Go back to yellow. So those guys got a hold of the T-shirt industry in the early '90s and fucking nearly killed T-shirts. They wiped a lot of places out. So much so that it kind of started to come back in 2011 with these SpongeBob shirts where SpongeBob would be on a shirt and you'd touch him and he'd get sunburned so you could like touch it. And I brought it up. I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. And every fucking person that lived through that era was like, we can never go back to those inks. Like that wiped the whole industry out. And I think what happened is after they killed T-shirts, they went into comic books too, right? And that's where you started to see all these holographic covers and these weird treatments. And so, like, I could point a through line between T-shirts all the way through comics and then how that wrecked the industry and robbing those guys. But, of course, they could afford to do it because they were selling hundreds of thousands of issues of any... I mean, the guy just produced, what, Night Strike. Did you ever read Night Strike? Oh, it's fucking horrible. Like, I mean, like... Oh, man, Night Strike. Prophet Baywatch. Remember that great piece of fucking trash? Troll. The only reason why we even remember Jeff Matsuda, right, in the beginning is because he drew a book called Troll, which is like a Puck meets Wolverine. It's ridiculous.
Say Pug?
Puck. No, Puck.
Oh.
He's a mutant from
Puck. Okay. Sorry.
Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
Short little guy, so he was like this little midget Wolverine. Sorry, short person. Wolverine. I don't even know what Troll did, man. Like, I'll be honest, I never bothered to read the fucking issues. I would just buy them and look at the art and want to draw it because it was fun. Like, I think a lot of people comment about that era because of the over muscles and all the the packs and shit. The way I think people talk about tattoos now. Brandon, you have some tattoos, right?
That I do.
And when we go to cons, everyone's like, oh, look at your tattoo. Look at your tattoo. I don't have any.
They love
I have
him.
one.
Okay, so Ashley, you got a tattoo. Well, I almost feel like the tattoos weren't a big thing when I was a kid. You know, that was like verboten. Like, oh, maybe you get a tattoo, you're a weird sailor or some shit. But you know that I remember looking at comic book art the way people look at tattoo art now. You know, like at that time it was this very pin-up-y thing, you know, and it was graphic. So much so that I still say you can take almost any one of these panels from, you know, Extreme Studios and put them on a t-shirt and they would work just as an image.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're very graphic, very visceral. They have a look and an attitude. Doesn't make so great for trying to read a fucking comic book. You know, you're like, they look happy, but everyone's always angry. You know, they say I am happy to see you. Everyone's mad and brooding. So it doesn't really work out. But yeah, he covered all of that stuff fairly well. Not every job is a job you should take. That's a job. That's the quote Rob Liefeld said there. Not every job is a job you should take. And I can't remember the order in which he said it, but I think that meant Heroes Reborn. I think he was talking about that. Like, not every job is a job you should take.
Well, when he mentioned that, he was talking about when he first wanted to come to Marvel, and the book they wanted him on. I don't remember what it was, but he passed on it, and instead he did the New Mutants because he didn't want to follow up one of the more legendary artists. Like he didn't want to.
It was like Fantastic Four, I think it was.
It was something where he didn't want to follow up on it, and he said not every job is a job you should take.
Yeah, but he should have framed. That's a story in which he still looks good in the end because he was a success when he took this other thing. What he should have framed it was like the thing. There's very little humility in Rob Liefeld. So when you're like, hey, I did this Captain America thing, probably wasn't the direction Captain America should have gone in. Thought it was a lot of fun art. It is memorable for a lot of different reasons, but maybe not every job you should take. That would be a side where you go, oh, that's a real dude. He's endearing, right? Instead, he goes, yeah, they offered me this book that was super popular, and I passed on it, and I took this other book that didn't have fucking sales, and who gave a shit, and I made it happen. So not every job you should take. That's the Rob. It's kind of like Kanye in a way. Like, I'm the greatest. Like I'm the greatest. I didn't take Taylor Swift's job. I took fucking someone else's job. You know what I mean? So, not every job you should take. Like, like, it's just crazy. The thing that kills me the most about Rob Liefeld is how he got thrown out of Image. And this is the part where the show completely omits it. Like, he just glosses right past it. And there's a documentary on Image Comics. I do recommend you guys can check out sometime. Just leave it on while you're drawing. I don't want to get into it too heavily. But they do comment on the fact that he had tried to poach talent from Mark Silvestri. And he did sort of skirt around this topic on Collider Heroes, where he was saying how Mark wasn't a part of he didn't have Top Cow, he was part of Homage Comics, which is a joint venture between Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee and Brandon Choi, who wrote all the Jim Lee stuff at the time. And so what happened was there was this weird thing going on. They needed another Image Comics. Image needed another Image. Sounds weird. But they could already see the hit in sales. I know this because I had friends at the time, friends in the loosest term, people in my hometown, who were working at Wildstorm. And I knew that they were having an issue right now. Editorially, they were having an issue with sales. So the plan was to do Image 2.0. They didn't have 2.0 at the time, but it was an Image relaunch, you know, and that was this thing that became Cliffhanger, right? And Cliffhanger was originally supposed to be Joe Madureira, J. Scott Campbell, and Mike Turner. But Mike Turner was under contract at fucking under Mark Silvestri, and Mark Silvestri didn't want to let go of Mike Turner, wisely, because that was his #1 selling book, Witchblade, that Mike Turner was drawing. He's like, I can't let this guy go off and create his own thing. He's under contract. So they went with Humberto Ramos. Rob Liefeld just straight up tried to offer Mike Turner a lot of money. Well, from what I hear, a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, try to remember this. At the time, he was paying Stephen Platt $50,000 an issue to draw profit.
That's crazy.
An issue. So they this is how, you know, that's when I was a kid. I was like, you could make you could be a millionaire being a comic artist. You know, like, I believe that was true. And anyhow, Mike Turner went and told Mark Silvestri, you know, I don't have the particulars. I do have the gist from the shit that happened in Wildstorm. And because those studios, the Wildstorm Studios and the Homage or whatever, Top Cow. So Mark Silvestri said he was going to leave. You know, he's going to leave and form his own company. He technically did Top Cow. I was at con. It was just Top Cow. It was going to be his own company, you know, where the Moo is here. Or we're putting the Moo back in comics. I don't know. It was just Moo humor. And I was like, why are there giant udders? Fucking whatever.
Right.
You know, that's cool shit. I'll buy it. But he officially did leave Image. And there was this emergency meeting to figure out how to keep Mark Silvestri, because Mark Silvestri, you can't lose the Witchblade book, you know, like rising tides raises all ships, right? So Image couldn't lose that, and they were going to lose it, and so they basically had to get rid of Liefeld, you know. And Liefeld says it was because of Awesome Comics, but he was doing that on top of that. This was the #1 reason. I believe the documentary got into that quite a bit, but that's the #1 reason. And this is crazy because Rob Liefeld invented the little eye for Image. That came from the name Image came from Rob Liefeld. Came up with the name, the look, the logo, you know, and they end up throwing him out of his own company. And then he ended up getting fired from Heroes Reborn. And then I don't know what the fuck happened. There was Awesome and Radical Comics, I think, that Battlestar Galactica thing. And then Rob Liefeld went away, and then he came back. So, you know, people, they were asking me, Kyle was asking me the other day, it was last night, why I stopped reading in 2005. And I mean, I was exhausted with comics by 2005. Like my comics journey started around 1991, and motherfuck, dude, guys, it was a roller coaster. You know, I felt the launch of Ultimates and when all the independent distributor publishers kind of went under in 2005, and all of them did Viper